Evening and a warm welcome to the Europa League highlight show. So much to get through between now and 11 o'clock. Nearly 70 goals, in fact. Jurgen Klopp's first home game in charge of Liverpool against Russians Rubin Kazan. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's first game back in charge of Molde as they took on Celtic. And all the action from Tottenham's trip to Anderlecht. 68 goals, in fact, in every single one of them from every game between now and 11. Joining me to digest all of this evening's entertainment, I suppose, certainly football for good and ill. Harry Redknapp, Jermaine Genius, both obviously Spurs worn with pride. And joining us, the European football show, little slather of French mustard on the end, Julien Laurent. We'll move on to the British club shortly. First, though, let's kick off with 68 goals, those certainly from groups G, H, I, K and L. Here's Alex Gordon-Martin and Archie Ryan-Tutt.
It's something to behold that for the third time in his last 9 games, Lazio defender Mauricio was sent off. This time, he fouled Rosenborg's Jürgen Skjelvik. Fortunately for Mauricio, Alessandro Matri was on target at the other end for Lazio, as they look to maintain their perfect home record in all competitions this season. And despite having a man less, Lazio doubled their lead in the second half, as Felipe Anderson netted his second in 2 games. Just over 20 minutes from time, though, Rosenborg's Alexander Soderlund made his mark, as the top scorer in Norway this season pulled one back. But Jan-Erik de Lanle's challenge on Stefan Radu then gave Lazio a penalty. From there, captain Antonio Candreva beat goalkeeper Andre Hansen at the second attempt to wrap up the win. Saint-Etienne didn't win a single group stage game in 2014, but Roma Hammouma ensured that wasn't going to happen again, as his goal saw off last season's runners-up in the competition. That victory for Saint-Etienne takes them above Dnipro ahead of the reverse fixture in a fortnight. Lazio 3 points clear at the top.
Lokomotiv could still boast an unblemished record in Group H as they met Besiktas in the Russian capital. Maicon lashed home for the Muscovites early in the second half after good work by Omar Baye-Niassa. Besiktas are currently at the top of the Turkish league standings, and it was a goal of real quality that saw them go level. First wonderful play from Ozyakup, followed by the kind of quick feet and finish you might still expect from Mario Gomez. Lokomotiv would end up holding on for the point after veteran Chorluka saw red for violent conduct with 20 minutes left to play. 1-1 it finished. Elsewhere, Europa League debutants Skënderbeu didn't do themselves any favours in Lisbon when Hamdi Salihi picked up 2 yellow cards in the space of a minute, the second a pretty inexplicable handball. Jashanica was next to get on the wrong side of the referee and the wrong side of the nimble Freddie Montero. Former Liverpool midfielder Alberto Aquilani put the Portuguese league leaders in front. Montero was soon inviting another clumsy challenge as Vangeli dived in. Penalty once again for Sporting. But this time the Colombian thought he'd have a go from 12 yards. In the second half, the Albanians soon tired, and 19-year-old Brazilian Mateus Pereira headed in a third just after the hour mark. 3 soon became 4 when Montero's free kick was met emphatically by the head of Figueiredo, and you feared it would get a whole lot worse for the away side, with more than 20 minutes still to play. Sporting would find the net only once more, with Pereira volleying in his second, but the 10 men surprisingly managed to pull one back very late on, Jashanica heading in a small consolation on a very long evening indeed for the Albanians. And Skënderbeu will have to do it all again in a couple of weeks in the return fixture. Lokomotiv, meanwhile, stay top of Group H.
Basel are 7 points clear at the top of the Swiss Super League, and they looked comfortable when Michel Lang nodded them in front early on. The Belenenses weren't about to lie down after their thumping by Fiorentina last time out, as Luis Leal equalised. Just before the break, Leal squared in Kuka to give the visitors a surprise first win in the group, especially as they're currently in the bottom half of the Primera Liga. There was another shock, this time for Italy's league leaders Fiorentina, as Lex David Kornacki put the away side ahead. This was all the more stunning with Polish champions Lech Poznan in last place domestically, Eyebrows were raised further, and Maciej Gajos then doubled their lead. Fiorentina did grab a consolation in the final minute through Giuseppe Rossi, as he netted for the second game running in the competition. But the hosts' bad night was rounded off by Ante Rebic's red card, as the team top of Italy's Serie A were defeated by the club bottom of Poland's Ekstraklasa. So a first win for the group's two underdogs. Basel still first despite defeat, but Fiorentina slipped to the bottom of Group I.
Franco Di Santo needed just 6 minutes to add to his hat-trick against Asteras on match day 2, and Schalke at this stage looking good to make it 3 wins from 3 in Group K. But Sparta are in good form themselves and equalised after a misguided Benedikt Herbede's clearance fell kindly for Kehinde Fatai. More poor Schalke defending led to Sparta's second just after the hour mark. This time, David Lafata was the man to take advantage, within a minute of coming on as a substitute. But the home side would strike on the counter as Di Santo played in Leroy Sané, who made it 3 games unbeaten for the Germans in Group K. Apoel still seem like they're yet to get over their shock defeat to Kazakhstan champions Astana in Champions League qualifying. They went behind early on to a fine first-time finish by Brian Louis, as the Greek side got off to a flyer in Cyprus. After a brief delay for floodlight failure, Apoel were awarded a penalty thanks to a Dimitris Kourbalis handball. And Fernando Cabinaghi stepped up to blast in Apoel's very first goal of their Europa League campaign. Their second and decisive goal arrived when a Stilic corner was glanced in by Brazilian defender Carlao, and Apoel are off and running in Group K. So all still to play for in the group, with Schalke and Sparta battling it out at the top. They meet next time in the Czech capital.
Athletic were without an away win in all competitions, but that changed in the Serbian capital, with Raul Garcia nabbing their opener. 5 minutes from time, Beniat curled home, showing why he's regarded as a set-piece specialist to seal the win for the side from Bilbao. Not much has gone right for Augsburg this season, but in Alkmaar, Piotr Trzaskowski sealed their first ever European win. Augsburg still remain bottom of Group L, whilst Atletic's win in Belgrade moves them above the Serbian champions.
One or two stories there for sure. Sometimes it's hard to guess exactly what happens at the group phase of the Europa League. There's so much to get through and teams have other priorities perhaps, but certainly a shock at Fiorentina tonight, Jules.
Yeah, the biggest one of the evening, for sure, even if Paulo Sousa, the Fiorentina manager, rotated a lot his squad. There was no Borja Valero, for example, no Kalinic, no Ilicic only on the bench. But still, you know, top of Serie A, losing at home against Lech Poznan, bottom of the Polish league. 2-1, you know, pretty special night for Lech Poznan. In fairness, I don't think anyone saw that one coming. And for Fiorentina, well, they've been doing so well in Serie A. They lost against Napoli at the weekend, losing again tonight. They will have to bounce back pretty quickly in the league as well.
Lost both their home games in this competition thus far, so a lot of work to do. Bottom of the group as it stands. The one bright spark, you'd say, the player you've liked for years, Giuseppe Rossi, who scored in successive games for them in...
Yeah, been an unlucky player, Matt. You know, he's had injuries and, you know, it's just really blighted his career the last few years. I think he's a fantastic front man, clever little player, started at Man United. And, you know, if he can stay fit, he's a real top player.
Now, Jorge Jesus, the Portuguese coach who was at Benfica, remember he had that little dust-up with Tim Sherwood when they played at Spurs. He made the kind of controversial decision to move across town to Sporting this summer, but looked good for him tonight, ahead of a game back at Benfica at the weekend. 5-1 winners, I think they were.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, it'd be great for him having this result under his belt when they've got to go back there this weekend. But he's just that type of character, isn't he? I think we saw...
He was at Braga, JJ, when I was at Portsmouth, and he was a nightmare.
Yeah, he's in the face, isn't he?
The worst behaved manager I've ever come across.
Really?
Yeah, that day.
So I don't think that move, you know, I don't think it'll affect him too much. We'll probably be looking forward to it, to be honest with you.
It was his 100th game, 100th European game tonight as a manager, and it was, you know, 5-1 win. Nice way to celebrate it, especially, like you said, to prepare the Lisbon derby at the weekend.
I just thought he didn't like gilets, but clearly it's a wider issue. Right, so that's part one done. We'll get to Liverpool next. Much expected, of course, at Anfield tonight. Jurgen Klopp's first game in charge. Was it the second coming, the normal one? Expectations, certainly. Did they deliver? That's next. Welcome back, or indeed, hello. If you're just turning over, Liverpool have got a new manager. Don't know if you've heard, fella from Germany, Jurgen Klopp, supposed to be decent. First home game tonight, as Liverpool hosted Rubin Kazan, the Russian team who are having a poor run. Let's have a look at what happened. Early chances came and went for Liverpool. And then yellow card for Kuzmin. That turned out to be prophetic. Harry, Jermaine and Julian, you're all keeping an eye on this as well as other things tonight. That seemingly neither here nor there moment, as we'll see, turned out to be prophetic. But Rubin it was. Harry, you actually got the tails in front, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you really, even before the game, you couldn't see this coming. Rubin are a team that's been in decline, and you really fancied Liverpool tonight. You know, Klopp's first game to beat these, but
look at that, could have been
overall,
two.
mate, it was a very, very poor performance. Playing against 10 men for what, 60 minutes almost, you know,
and there's the key moment. Kuzmin already on a yellow, tangling with Chan. Perhaps. Was it harsh, Jermaine, or was it silly for him to get involved there?
It was daft,
yellow?
you know, and obviously look what it's cost his team.
Yeah.
You know, this is what the goal came from. But, you know, the two challenges, he's the captain of the side for starters, and there were silly challenges. But weirdly enough, it didn't really affect his team too much.
35 shots I think Liverpool had. That's as close as they got Benteke on as the second half, so hitting the post. But actually, for the huff and puff, from what we saw, Julian, came up pretty short tonight, Liverpool.
They didn't create much. I was saying with Harry and German, there was not enough pace going forward, and the rhythm, especially in the second half, it was all a bit flat, in fairness. And they played for an hour with 11 men against 10 as well. I don't think it was good enough in terms of performance.
Nobody to do something special and open them up. You know, packed defence, you need somebody who's going to open the door for you. And Liverpool didn't have that again tonight. You know, I said all along, for me, it's a very average Liverpool team, and he's got a big job on his hands. It's not going to be easy.
Honeymoon's over. Only lasted a few days. Jake's been covering the game with guests for us up at Anfield. Stephen McManaman and David James alongside him. Let's head up there and see what they made of it. Jake.
Yeah, thanks very much, Matt. Right, what's the adjective then? Deflated, disappointed, frustrated, all three?
How long we got? But definitely,
2 minutes.
It definitely includes all those three and more.
Yeah, it was a very poor performance by Liverpool today. Loads of possession, loads of shots in the wrong areas, most of them, and not enough cutting edge. And I mean, the fans applauded Jurgen Klopp and the team going off the field today, but had Brendan Rodgers been in that dugout, that would have been a boo today.
OK, right, let's talk about going forward then. What does he need to do with this squad to try and improve things? Because the transfer window doesn't open for a while.
Yeah.
These are the players he's got.
He needs to get Daniel Sturridge back, because he's the one person who looks as if he's got that real quality to open up his defence and, more importantly, put the ball in the back of the net, because he has done it before. He needs to get a fit Benteke back, and he needs to perform better than he has done. Firmino needs to get involved somehow and get to the races and get in tune with playing for Liverpool Football Club at this environment. And come January, he needs to invest. He needs to get more players.
I don't agree. I don't agree.
Do you think that team's good enough to what?
I think that team is good enough.
To win the what? To win the Premier League?
I think he's got a good enough squad there. And I think
To do what? To achieve what?
To be good.
Top four?
This season's going to be it's going to be difficult, but there's no reason why they shouldn't be finishing top 5, top 6, because that squad is good enough.
That team, I think for me, is worse than last year. The way
they're playing badly, yes. But I think as a coach, as a manager, he will get that squad playing so much better. There's no bad players on that field. They're just not playing to their full potential. And I think as a manager, as a coach, he's got the ability with his coaching staff to get the best out of them. And you're saying about Sturridge, this is going back to the early Brendan Rodgers years where, we need Luis Suarez to make our team good. Without Luis Suarez, the team wasn't particularly good. So therefore, the team itself wasn't particularly great. Depending on one man is not good enough. I think they've got enough talent in that squad to do well.
But they certainly have to step up to the mark, because at this moment in time, if he can get them anywhere near the top 4, he will be a miracle worker. He really will be.
All right, thanks a lot, boys. I think it's clear, isn't it, from these two? Not a happy night for Liverpool. It was a pretty flat atmosphere, but worth pointing out once again that the locals applauded them off at the end. Back to you.
Jake as Mrs. Merton, and a heated debate between JMO and Macca. Where do you stand, Harry? Good enough players, just need to play better?
Well, with Macca, needs Sturridge. He's the one player that can open. He's got that ability to do something special around the box, to score a goal, to make a goal, open up tight defences. Other than that, I don't see anybody there who's got that real ability to do that. And, you know, Coutinho's the only other one. You know, he's the player that's got to get on the ball. But no creativity in midfield. It's an average midfield. There's no real flair in there. No one can make the killer pass. There's a lot of work to be done. That squad, 5th or 6th, that's doing entitled to be 5th or 6th.
Yeah.
On a bad year, Liverpool be 6th.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, innit? It depends what you want. If Liverpool fans are happy with 5th or 6th, then yeah, squad's fine.
They're
but
not, are they? The owners don't want that. You
obviously
need
not.
Champions League
You're not.
football.
You want Champions League football.
Threatened for
you're
the
gonna
Premier
be-
League, yeah.
Precisely.
And
to
this
do
is their
that,
best chance
they
this
need
year.
players. They need that midfield is. It's weak. It's not.
Centre mid,
creative
central
right in the
midfield.
middle of that. Yeah, right in the middle. At the top. I mean, if they went 3 up top, for example, and you went Coutinho, Benteke, Sturridge. You know, it's a strong front 3, but you know, you got to get them. Got to get them the ball. You know, you got to feed them and be creative. And I've just not seen any of that really from the start of the season from Liverpool. No.
Is the chat, do you understand, Jules, that he might go back to Germany? Would he have a sense of where he might go and fish for some talent there?
Yeah, I think that's where he knows best. You know, there's the players there he's worked with before. The thing is, when he was at Dortmund, he never did any transfer himself. You know, there was Michael Zorc above him who was very clever and astute in the way they did the transfer. At Liverpool, it's a bit different. We all know that. There's that famous transfer committee. But surely, we get some money to spend, I think, and to strengthen those areas, like German was saying, especially in midfield, to get better, because it's not good enough right now.
George, he's going to be successful, but he's going to have to rely on somebody like the man he had at Dortmund.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to have to bring them players in, because as a manager, you don't get the time to keep going to watch games all over the world now. It's such a busy job day in, day out. So you're only relying on whoever, you know, brings that talent to you. And unless Liverpool can find people better than what they've had in the last year or two to bring the talent in, they're going to struggle.
Let's hear from the new manager. Here are his post-match thoughts.
So your first home game, Jurgen, you asked for patience. We needed some tonight. You couldn't break down 10 men. So was that ultimately a frustrating occasion for you tonight?
No, it's not frustrating. Okay, I know usually it is, but patience mean that we do this what we did today, better, sometimes faster, sometimes with more consequence, yeah? And then we are in better positions. But the guys tried what they did, and of course we came good in the game, and then we got this very, very nice goal, but of course we could better defend, but in the last moment it was brilliant from the striker, and that changed, of course. The team is not full of self-confidence, and it's a little bit because situation in the group, maybe then they got a little bit lost the grab on the game, and but we were back, and okay, against 10. It's unthinkable sometimes. Yeah, they run, they had no counter, I think, anymore, but so they stay deep. And yeah, we had to find solutions. Sometimes we found we had too many shots on the goal. I think 35 or something like this, but only 9 for the goalie. And okay, 98% I would say is okay, but the last 2% and the decision maker percent were not on the pitch tonight.
So you're looking for more intensity from the players, and the goals as well. Klein was caught out for the first. Mignolet kept you in the game with the second, with a save to keep out the second goal.
To keep out the second goal, sorry. Once again, the question, please.
Were the mistakes at defence that you were unhappy with? Because Klein was caught for the first, Mignolet prevented the second.
Ah, okay. Yeah, the second chance, I don't. I'm not sure, but in this situation it's easy to say, much more easy to say than to do on the pitch, but we could stay a little bit closer. You could stay next to this one player who is dangerous for us. That could be happening. We have to be closer in the situation when Emery go out. Joe could be a little bit closer. That's the situation, how things happen. And if we are closer, when we can press the ball, we can defend the ball. They can chip the ball behind our last line. And at the end, it is not. We made it really well, and that's we have to accept.
Thank you, good. Thanks for your time.
I think that's professionally putting a brave face on things. It is early days, but yeah. I imagine you've more than once had to come out and say the right things, but perhaps a different message inside the dressing room. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Hugo, he's got to be disappointed deep down tonight with what he's seen, but it's early for him to have a real effect on the team, you know, because he's only had couple of days to work with them. Probably last week when they were saying, oh, you can see the difference in the team, the way they've played. He probably only had Thursday. They were one international duty, Tuesday, Wednesday, got back probably Thursday, most of them. One real day, Friday doing very little. So it's going to take time, but he's going to need better players in certain positions if he's going to be if they're going to be successful as a team, because the squad and the team is short. It's not good enough.
And the thing is, he won't get the time, not least in the short term, because the games come so thick and fast. The fixture list is unrelenting. A lot of the away games are real tough encounters. The Europa League is often discussed as this double-edged sword because it ties up a lot of your midweek time on the training ground.
Yeah, the games are coming, and he's going to have to accept that. But, you know, you're not going to be able to judge Klopp, you know, for a few months at least, when he's had a good amount of time to work with his players. One of the big things that stood out for me was he mentioned confidence. You know, and the lack of it that's in his team at the minute, and I think that's why he's coming out with a smile on his face, trying to be positive and start, instead of, you can't just come out and start ripping players to shreds. We all watched the game, we know it wasn't a great performance, but, you know, he needs to instill that, that confidence back in his side, which I'm sure he'll be trying to work on day in, day out.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Swiss minnows of Sion are taking control of the group, aren't they?
They do. They had a great night at Liverpool 3 weeks ago with a 1-0 draw. They did even better today in Bordeaux with a 1-0 win. Leo Lacroix there in the first half with the goal. I'm not really sure what the defence was doing there for Bordeaux. Very poor performance by the home side, the French side. And they even finished the game with 10 men because Khazri was sent off. We're going to see that for 2 yellows. And that's the second one. Then he was not really happy against the referee. He's smiling there. He gets the second yellow. He's going to go back towards the dressing room. We see him, but then he's thinking, oh, maybe not. Maybe I'm not going to go back. And he goes back on the pitch, and then the fight starts. I'm not sure Khazri needed to do that. I'm not sure there was a need for a fight either. A very bad night for Bordeaux, bad night for Liverpool, but Ruben Kazan and Sion, good for them.
Very good. Very good, particularly for the Swiss team. Let's just quickly check on how it stands. In terms of the table, Sion 7 points, Liverpool with 3, and of course they make the long trip to Rubin in a fortnight's time, whilst it will be back to Switzerland for Sion and Bordeaux, presumably without Monsieur Khazri. Our round-up continues after the break. Lots more still to come from us, including, of course, a trip for Spurs to Belgium. 3 Belgians in the starting 11 against Anderlecht, and we'll see how Celtic got on in Norway. Stay with us. Welcome back. Just a pointer before we get back to the Europa League action from tonight. Sunday's Scottish Championship League offering is St Mirren against Rangers. Sunday from midday on 1 in HD and indeed in Ultra HD. Right, let's find out how Spurs got on in Belgium against Anderlecht earlier this evening. Watching on for us, Clive Allen, alongside Steve Bauer.
Opportunity for Tottenham to really stamp their mark on Group J of the Europa League this evening.
3 minutes in, Stephen. No real tackles of any note so far. It's been possession turned over cheaply. Both teams looking to pass the ball.
Might be an opportunity here. Eriksson! What a start for Tottenham. Well, Anderlecht switched off, and inside 4 minutes, Spurs lead in Belgium, courtesy of Christian Eriksen. Steven Defour with that corner, wasn't really dealt with, came through to Gillet. 1-1. Guillaume Gillet.
And we can see him, his first touch is magnificent, and then as it drops, he volleys it unerringly into that far corner. That really is a brilliant finish from the fullback. He lets it drop, he takes his time, he has some time, and then the finish is magnificent.
It's a terrific run. Was he held back? Lamela! Flag is up. And it was up early from the Dutch assistant, and it won't count.
Clearly offside.
Nicely weighted pass from Davis. Can Kane get onto it? He can. It's Harry Kane. Denied by Proto. Eriksson, and then out of play by Defour.
Proto makes a brilliant save with his left boot.
Obradovic. Trying to slide that inside the fullback, and he succeeded. Acheampong's cross, Akaka! 2-1 Anderlecht. It is defeat in Belgium from Mauricio Pochettino's team.
Yeah, and having started so brightly in this game, how frustrating is it to leave with a defeat?
Yeah, I think we started very well. First 15-20 minutes we were bossing them, and scored a goal, a bit lucky, but we scored. And I think after that we just thought we won the game. We gave them the confidence they needed, because I think in the beginning they were not scared, but they were like very calm and not that aggressive. But after that we gave them all the confidence to come and go for us. And after that they were just a better team.
Yeah, once they got that confidence, do you think that they played better than you perhaps expected?
No, I know they can play, and you know, we told in the dressing rooms they have great players, you know, on the ball. You know, players who can play in the Premier League, play everywhere they want. And but without the ball, normally they're not as good. But we didn't put them under pressure enough. We didn't keep the ball after the first 20 minutes, and like I said, we gave them the game.
Monaco won tonight, of course. Tottenham are now second in the group. How big does that make the game at White Hart Lane in a couple of weeks' time against Anderlecht?
Yeah, massive. To be honest, this game was massive. We wanted to win this game very hard, but maybe we didn't. It didn't seem like that after that first 20 minutes. But we wanted to win, and now yeah, there's a bit more pressure on the game of White Hart Lane. We're always strong at the lane, good reputation last couple of months. So yeah, we need to win that game.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us.
Fair assessment from Jan Vertonghen with Reshman Chowdhury. Harry, it felt like a game of not two halves but two parts. Tottenham had a good 10 minutes, and that was it.
Started well, as he said, as Vertonghen said there. They went one up, and you're looking at the game, you thought this is going to be a 2 or 3-0 win for Tottenham tonight. They looked, the other side did look like they were in awe of Tottenham almost. But once they scored, it was game on. Even though Tottenham had, I think, 70% possession first half, but you know, it was a real disappointing result to get beat there tonight. You know, I couldn't see that coming. And
this is where European football maybe can be a blessing and a curse. It might derail what's been a good run of form for Spurs if you're not careful.
Yeah, it can do. I mean, you'd hope not. You'd hope that they've done enough over the last couple of weeks where they can go into the next game and, you know, maintain that form. But, you know, today there was, you know, some lapses in concentration, and I think that's what caught them out, really, in the end, against Anderlecht. And, you know, fair play to Anderlecht. They really capitalised on it and deserved the win in the end. Yeah, because remember, they lost to Karabakh last time out, so it's quite a turnaround for Anderlecht.
Yeah, it is, and I don't think they expected a game like that either. They probably thought that Tottenham would put more pressure on them, especially in midfield, and that second half was quite comfortable, I thought, for Anderlecht.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, so, just a blip? You happy with that, or...?
Well, I think, I don't say a blip, I think Tottenham are a decent team at the moment. They're not, they've still got a way to go. I'm a big fan of the manager, but I still think they've got a way to go to... If they're going to really push on in any competition this year, I still think there's improvement needed from Tottenham if they're going to be challenging either for a top 4 spot or a real go at winning this this competition.
In fact, results-wise, haven't won since that mauling of Man City. Haven't won in 4.
No, there's a lot of weight, obviously, we spoke about on Harry Kane's shoulders as well, in getting those goals, you know, throughout the season, and it's not quite happening for the lad at the minute. And, you know, obviously Son's out injured as well, so it fell on NG today. He didn't quite do it, so, you know, there's an issue there for Pochettino to look at that he knew was there, which is why I was trying to get Berahino in the first place. But I think in their general play they're okay, but the goals are not coming easy for him, and that's a problem.
Bournemouth, Villa, Anderlecht at home, and then Arsenal in the North London derby, so we'll probably have to commit more first-team players before that.
Yes,
game,
and every 3 days or 4 days as well, because the Carling Cup, the Capital One Cup, is next week as well, in midweek, so they're going to have pretty quickly.
Yeah, and also Monaco, who haven't pulled up a lot of trees, either in French football or, in fact, in the group, have nicked a win tonight, haven't they, against Karabakh, to get themselves back in the mix.
Yeah, I don't really know how they did it, but they did it. It's not pretty at all, but one goal was enough. Lassina Traoré, the Ivory Coast international, Stéphane El Shaarawy with good work there, and a good finish from him with his left foot. Second goal in the competition, second goal of the season for him. Very crucial win for Monaco, who got top of the group.
Yeah, and the group now is quite congested, isn't it, fellas? I'm sure, as we discussed before tonight, and in fact before Monaco a couple of weeks ago, if they could get their tails up in the group, Spurs, you could see them getting it done inside perhaps 4 games, and then you can pretty much ignore the last 2 games and not worry about the long trips and the overexertions and so on.
Matt, you know, they're entitled to win that group. Let's
Yes.
be honest. We're talking about average, very average teams. You know, Monaco are nowhere near what they were. You know, it's a group that they should win comfortably, in all honesty. And it'll be a big disappointment if they don't do that.
Yeah, and he brought Harry Kane on tonight. Probably didn't want to, but felt compelled to. Only for half an hour or so, but as you say, there's a kind of cotton wool almost that you need to wrap him in because of the lack of alternatives. I know Son is still a little way away.
Yeah, well, he took a knock, didn't he, I think in training, so he tried to rest him, but obviously decided that, you know, after 55, 60 minutes they needed him, and he wouldn't have been happy about that, I don't think, Pochettino, having to do that. He probably would have preferred to rest him and Dele Alli, but he had to use them both.
Yeah. It's a lot of pressure on Dele Alli as well to create, you know, already his first season, 19-year-old, and suddenly everything is like he has to do a lot of work for that team.
I mean, one or two players tonight didn't really... I was a big fan, you know what I'm saying, before the game, Townsend, but he didn't do a lot tonight, Andros, to push himself to be getting in the team on a regular basis, and he needs to do a bit more.
Trippier as well.
Trippier didn't have a good night, got done for a ball inside him for the goal, and a couple of times he was open to that ball. So the fringe players, if you like, have not really pushed in, you know, showed the manager, look, I want to be starting in the Premier League.
Pick me, which is what Harry Kane did last season.
That's what they need to do.
Yeah, frustrating night for Spurs. Time next to find out what happened as Celtic travelled to Molde. Daryl Curry's been watching that one in the company of Gordon Strachan and Stilian Petrov. Daryl.
Well, Matt, this was a very, very disappointing night for Celtic. Ronny Deila, their coach, was returning to Norway, but his side have lost by 3-1, and it was a difficult chat for us after the match, actually. Gordon Strachan and Stilian Petrov were watching on tonight because, quite frankly, Gordon, Celtic were found wanting in many areas, weren't they?
Good start to the game. But defensively, you cannot keep scoring goals and letting in the goals that they do. And it's obvious mistakes they make. This one, Ambrose, just go back to where the ball's going. He knows the ball can only go there. He's actually backward running, getting away from him. So that's a poor start. They lost the ball at the start again. Whatever football you play, whatever system, if you keep losing the ball, then you've got a problem.
Boyata gave that ball away, didn't he? And then Izagiri, was he at fault on this one still?
Yeah, and we don't know what he was doing. First of all, he never came out. It was a corner kick. He never cleared that line. He stayed in the position that nobody knew why he's there. Then he tried to block that shot. He turned his back, and it was a great shot.
A glimmer of hope when Chris Commons scored.
This is a fella I thought could score goals or make goals. His record says that's what he does. His record so far in this championship is excellent in making goals and scoring goals. Might not be the most mobile, but that's what you've got to get.
20, 30 seconds after kick-off, though. This happened still.
They're back into the game, and there's 60 seconds. Again, defenders got attracted to the balls, runners behind, not aware of it, and it was another great finish as well.
Focus on Ronny Deila after this game, would you agree?
Yes, big focus, and he's under big pressure.
Big pressure, particularly because we saw the good of Chris Commons, but actually in the second half he was subbed off and he was not happy at all, Commons, when he came off. He was arguing with some of the Celtic coaches, and after the game Ailey Barber spoke to Ronny Deila about that.
Chris Commons came off, he reacted angrily to it. Why did you substitute him, and what do you make of his reaction?
We wanted to have 2 strikers on, but we always need to have balance in the team. You can't have 4 strikers at the same time in a game, because then you don't have the ball, you know. So we have to win it. So that's why. And Chris as well played many games, and it's going to be many games in the future as well. So he wants to win and he wants to play, but I doesn't like of course I don't like that reaction. That's very, very important to say that you know, this is a team. It's not about one single player.
Will you speak to him about his reaction?
Of course. That's not acceptable.
It also didn't go down too well with the fans either. Can you understand the whole situation around that?
Yeah, I understand everything, okay, and that's okay, but anyway, what's happening? Every decision you make, you have to be as a team, and that was not as a team. That was one-man show, and that's not good enough.
It's quite clear what the headlines are going to be tomorrow. Celtic poor, and that Commons incident, Gordon.
Well, I think Chris Commons attracted a lot to him. But what'll happen is the people who made football mistakes are going to get bypassed because of that. I think what Chris has done, because we all know Chris is a good footballer, but he's put the spotlight on him, and I think some players will escape what has went on the pitch.
Spotlight, though, as I've just said already to you, is very much on Ronny Deila, because it was a trip back home tonight. It was a team that he would know well, a manager, Solskjaer back in charge, that he knows well, and they've lost 3-1.
Well, better headlights for Solskjaer tomorrow. Not very good for Dahlia, especially after Commons accident when he came off. Poor reaction from him. But I think that'll be the last thing to deal with, because I think that they've got a bigger problem there, and the problem is to qualify. And the way they're playing, I don't think they've got a much chance at the moment.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. Enjoyed your company tonight. Celtic have it all to do now in Group A.
They do. It's starting to sound like a scratch record. We're all going to need group therapy tomorrow, aren't we? Those that have been with BT Sport tonight. Not the night we were hoping for. And obviously the headlines will be stolen away from probably a pretty average performance by the Chris Commons reaction to getting subbed. Everyone gets subbed, and sometimes you don't agree with it, but that's petty or petulant, shall I say.
It is, but I mean, it also shows that he cares from a player's point of view. And, they didn't play well today, and there's obvious issues there at Celtic. And I know Chris quite well. He used to be at Derby years, he was at Forest, and he was always around the area. And that would have hurt, that would have hurt him. And I think that's just what he's showing. He'll probably step back from it tomorrow and go, OK, I made a mistake, especially doing it in that type of scenario. And it's not ideal for a manager, but, he's just showing that he cares for me.
I thought it was a good point Gordon made, though. He will distract from the headlines will be about him tomorrow, I would think, and some of them players will be thinking, I'm pleased he's done that tonight, because he's got us.
Nice one, Chris.
Well done, Chris. We'll keep our mouths shut. He might bypass us. Took his goal well as well, didn't he?
Sure, which is probably what he was complaining about when he went off. The other game in the group, obviously, was our second live game here on BT Sport Europe. Eventually, late, went the way of Fenerbahce. Fernandao on as a substitute second half for Van Persie with the tearing header from the set play. That's 3 important points for them, and of course gives them a real foothold in the table. Lots and lots to do for Celtic now, having missed the chance to qualify for the Champions League, now struggling perhaps in the context of this group. Bottom certainly as it stands, and a big game against Molde in a fortnight's time in Glasgow. Do stay with us, because lots more goals and action and talking points to come. Some of them possibly even positive, since they don't include British teams, but all the rest of the Europa League action when we come back. Welcome back. 8 more games then to get through. Here are the details with Alex Gordon-Martin and Archie Rhinto.
Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang on target there with his first of the evening, and he was clearly enjoying his time at Kabbalah as he doubled Dortmund's tally for the evening before the break. The Gabonese frontman then completed his hat-trick in the second half as he made it 17 goals in 17 games for the season. An easy win in the end for Borussia Dortmund, who remain unbeaten in this year's competition, but they weren't able to keep a clean sheet, as in injury time, Dodo netted a consolation for Kabbalah. The other encounter in Group C was the only goalless game of the night, but Gary Rodriguez came close for PAOK. Both sides were reduced to 10 men, though, in the final 10 minutes. Artur Jedrzejczyk was sent off for Krasnodar, whilst Jairo wasn't at all happy here at having to march down the tunnel. Unsurprisingly, it's Dortmund who lead the way. Krasnodar are best placed behind them ahead of their return game with PAOK in 2 weeks' time.
Two wins from 2 for both these sides before they met in Denmark, but it was Napoli who struck first, and in some style, as Jose Callejon applied a terrific finish to Kalidou Koulibaly's long ball. Napoli were fresh from a great win over Serie A pace-setters Fiorentina on the weekend, and they were soon 2 up here as Alan's fine cross was steered in by Manolo Gabbiadini. And if his first owed much to the delivery, his second soon after was all his own. A wonderfully nonchalant finish past a disbelieving goalkeeper, and he thought Napoli were already out of sight. The Danish champions, though, pulled one back as Daniel Royer's shot at goal was poked in by Martin Pusic, before Gonzalo Higuain scored Napoli's 4th late in the second half. It was a comfortable night all round for the Italians. Club Brugge had conceded 8 goals in their 2 games going into matchday 3, but the terrible start to their campaign looked to be a thing of the past when David Defour poked them in front shortly before the break. Legia registered their first goal in the group stage when former Bruges midfielder Ivan Trikowski burst clear and teed up Mikhail Kucharczyk. 1-1 it finished. So with Napoli out in front in Group D, it looks like being a question of whether or not Bruges or Legia catch up with Midtjylland in that second qualifying position.
No man has netted more goals in the Czech Republic this season than Pilsen's Michal Juriš. He was on target again, this time in Vienna. But for the fourth European game running, Rapid's captain Stefan Hofmann was on the score sheet as he pulled the hosts level. And like in the previous group home game against Villarreal, Rapid came from behind to win. Louis Schaub using his chest to edge them ahead. Third win in 3 group games was secured when Thanos Petros' cross drifted all the way in. But the scoreline was made a little closer as Victoria grabbed what was ultimately to be a consolation through Patrick Borushovsky. Villarreal's form has tailed off in La Liga recently after back-to-back defeats, but against Dinamo Minsk, Cedric Bakambu scored his first goal in European competition. There was a second goal for both Bakambu and Villarreal in the first half, as the Belarusian visitors endured a tough night on the east coast of Spain. There was even a goal after the break for former Spurs man Roberto Soldado. He ended a run of 6 games without a goal to net his third in Villarreal colours. And a sizable win for the home side was completed by Eric Bailly late on to keep Dinamo Minsk firmly on the foot of the table. Villarreal move up to second in Group E, ahead of their trip to Belarus, but it's Rapid Vienna who lead the way.
Marseille's loss to Liberec on matchday 2 has been sandwiched between 5 winless games in Liga, and there was another fruitless evening for them to contemplate here. Hassan's delightful opener, good enough to bring a tear to the eye. Braga went 2 up through Wilson Eduardo, and with 13 minutes to play, you thought they'd put the game to bed. Then came a Roman Alessandrini free kick for Marseille. He made it 2-1, and the French side suddenly had a glimmer of hope. Remarkably, 2 minutes later, Batshuayi scored to make it 2-2, and Marseille thought they'd snatch an unlikely point. But the flurry of late goals didn't stop there. Within a minute, Braga scored the decisive goal through Alan. 3-2 it finished. The 2011 runners-up looking good in Group F. Elsewhere in the group, Groningen were in the Czech Republic, playing in what looked for all the world like a goalless draw, until lucky Kevin Lucassen struck 3 minutes from time to grab what he thought was the winner. Dmitry Efremov then fouled Hataboya in the penalty area. Danny Huysen stepped up and missed from 12 yards, only to score on the rebound 6 minutes into added time. So a first point of the group stage for Groningen, but with 3 wins from 3, Braga lead the way in Group F. Marseille welcome them to the Stade Velodrome on matchday 4.
Feisty night, 9 red cards across all of the action, and only 3 teams already with 100% records. One of them, of course, Napoli, who, it's worth pointing out, you said, won their last 5, really on a roll since the end of August.
Yeah, flying under Maurizio Sarri. They're playing really well in the league, and what a goal from Jose Callejon to open the scoring tonight, and Midtjylland, who also won their first 2 games in the competition. Lovely ball from Koulibaly. I never saw Koulibaly passing the ball the way like that in 40 yards, and then what a finish by Callejon. But Gabbiadini had a great goal. Higuain as well. He's 4th in the last 5 games, so Napoli really, really flying.
And of course it will be easy because you look at Dortmund and see the likes of Aubameyang, among others, doing terrific stuff tonight, and you think, oh, that's where Jurgen Klopp might be casting an eye.
Yeah, I'm sure Liverpool fans will be praying for that after seeing a couple of these finishes tonight. I mean, that one, just the shape on the ball, the dip that he gets on it, it's just, you can tell that's a player that's high in confidence at the minute.
Fantastic.
14 in 12.
14 in 12, 19 in 18 for the season, all comps. It cost a bit, H.
Cool. Very expensive. I don't know if Liverpool can afford him, can they?
We'll have to dig deep, the Americans.
Yeah,
they're in the stadium tonight. Disappointing night, but then we said that about the Champions League, didn't we? Just a couple of weeks back, and that's turned.
Yeah, it can turn. It's wide. Tottenham, I don't see them having any problems. You know, I think they'll be okay. Celtic have certainly got it all on. Liverpool, you would still expect Liverpool to have enough there to qualify at the group as well. So it can quickly turn.
Fingers crossed. Thanks for your company, fellas. Harry, good. Jermaine, and of course Jules, as always. Thank you very much. Here's how we line up next time, just 2 weeks from now. The return legs of tonight, if you like. They're all group games, but of course Liverpool stripped to Rubin Kazan. That from 5:30 on BT Sport Europa and in HD. And Tottenham get a chance to get some revenge against Anderlecht. That's from 8 p.m. We'll also have Celtic that night. That's an early kick-off. Their game in Glasgow against Molde. Not the night we were hoping for, certainly in terms of results for the three British teams. But then we did say that about the Champions League lot just a couple of weeks back. They've got their act together. Hopefully Liverpool, Celtic and Spurs can do the same. Thanks for your company. See you next time.